What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Martian and Ozzy podcast. I am the Martian, and this week I'm joined by my co-host Ozzy. As always, we're going to be talking about the Font versus Aldo card going down this weekend. We got a 15 fight card this weekend. Ozzy, how we doing this week?
Really well. Nice 1 week hiatus. Had one of those in a while. So spent the Thanksgiving down in Florida. Back here for for like you said, that fat UFC card. Bellator the night before. I got a former high school classmate of mine, George Arias, main event in a Triller fight card. So I'm all about the combat sports again, and we're looking to finish December strong and close out a really good year of betting.
Yeah, a lot of fights this weekend. Huge UFC card. Bellator has an amazing card, as Ozzy just mentioned. And there are some really good fights on this UFC card. We're really looking forward to the top two fights in the card, of course. And quick recap from last event. I did lose last week, minus 3.45 units, lost every single bet over five. So rough night of bets for me, though. I think you did well, though, Ozzy. How'd you end up?
Yeah, really good night. Kind of felt good going into it. Came out of it going pretty well as well. Only losses were Aori, really close split decision loss. Levy, which was a bet that I liked a lot. Which I kind of regret. It's very hard to get to grapple fuck a guy when you're not going first. But other than that, Hani Yahya proved my confidence in him really well, even though he did get touched up early there. Pat Sabatini got him in at dog money. Sean Brady, Lupi Godinez, and did really well sweeping the prop side of things for a little more than 3.3 units up, 25% ROI. So we're keeping chugging along and keeping these UFC cards profitable. But we did, unfortunately, because of my Nathan Levy pick, we did lose that parlay that we gave at the end. So we're
True,
one and
true.
one. We're 1-1 on those, but still plus 2 units. So we'll look to get that on the winning side this week.
Yeah, it's all your fault on that one.
For sure.
Um,
Should have went with the Philly parlay. Stupid me. Very dumb.
for sure, for sure. Your boy Project Pat came through, and those fights were so long ago. I barely even remember them. You have a better memory of them than I do because you actually won some money on those fights. But let's get into these fights this week. We got 15 fights, and we got to get through all of these. And we'll try to get you out of here in under an hour and a half, and we'll give you some good information throughout that. So we're starting things off bantamweight division. We have Luis Smolka as the favorite, minus 152 on Bet Online right now. Vince Morales plus 132 on the comeback. I'm kind of surprised by this line. I think that Vince Morales is a pretty good underdog at this price. Luis Smolka, former flyweight, doing okay in the bantamweight division, but the guys he's fighting, I don't think are the highest level. I thought that rewatching that fight against Quinones, I thought that he struggled a good amount in that fight. I did not remember Quinones piecing Smolka up on the feet like that. Even was able to take Smolka down a few times. So even though he won that fight, pretty concerning performance from Smolka there. And I thought that Vince Morales fought well in his fight against Draco Rodriguez. I think Ozzy and I both picked him and bet him in that fight. And I think this guy is just an underrated fighter in the betting lines. I think he's pretty much always the underdog. And I think he's going to be a good underdog in this spot because I give him the striking advantage. I think he's going to be landing the better strikes. Smolka is very susceptible to leg kicks against Quinones. So if Morales comes in with that heavy leg kick game plan, I think he could have really good success. And Morales' takedown defense is pretty good as well. He hasn't really been out grappled in his UFC career. And hasn't fought, the most grapplers, but still, the guy is a pretty good defensive grappler. And Smoke is not even wrestling that heavily nowadays. It seems like he's kind of gotten more comfortable with his striking. So I'm not sure where this confidence in Smolka comes at all. I kind of align this as a pick 'em, maybe even Morales is a slight favorite. So I'll definitely be on Morales at this underdog price. Haven't bet him yet, but you might as well wait because the line just keeps moving in the right direction. So what are we thinking on this opening matchup, Ozzy?
Yeah, so Smolka has a significant amount more UFC and kind of just overall MMA experience than Vince Morales does. But when you look at these two guys, and especially when you look at the betting line here, Smolka, like you said, did get touched up a good amount by Quinones in that fight. Was able to establish a few takedowns there, but Quinones, I feel, kind of fell apart a little bit there at the end. I don't know if it was the activity that waned on him early on, but he's just like a very frenetic guy. Can't really control the pace of the fight all that much. But when he was putting the offense out, I did think that Smolka was pretty susceptible to all the offense that he was putting out. A lot of the punches that Smolka was coming back at him with were a bit wide. I think it was like looping shots, and I think that Vince Morales, for what he has, is pretty tight boxing. And I think that he is actually a better grappler than a lot of people give him credit for. I don't think he's a stud wrestler or a stud jiu-jitsu guy, but he's pretty composed overall. Even when he is, losing fights, I don't think that he wilts all that bad. Even when he was under the crazy attack to his tibia and fibia by Chris Gutierrez, he was still staying in there for the most part. And he's gone to a few pretty close decisions. Went to a decision with Song Yadong, was winning a fight against Domingo Palarde before he fell apart. And I think we mentioned the Benito Lopez fight was probably a robbery. So if you're gonna give me 30 cents, 32 cents here of value on the Morales side, I think I will take that. But like you said, the line is trending in his direction. I do think that he has a tighter boxing than Smolka. I do think that he'll be able to control the pace of the fight a little bit better than Quinones did. And Smolka's takedown defense is pretty poor. He gives up underhooks quite a lot. He'll get taken down often, but he is good at scrambling and keeping it moving. Once it does hit the ground, so I think it'll be a close fight. I'd be surprised probably if either of these guys finished each other. Even though that line for Smolka finish is almost 2-1, close to it, which is a little bit surprising to me. So maybe look at the over here instead of laying that juice on Smolka if you do like him, because I don't really think he's gonna get Vince Morales out of there. But I do like Morales here. I think at worst case scenario, it is a somewhat of a close fight. I don't think Smolka has really the attributes or the technique to really blow him out of the water. So I'll probably take a stab at him at plus 132 and 130, and then potentially look at the ghost distance or the over here.
Nice. An agreement there. We're going to move on to the heavyweight division. It's a fight I think you've done some research in. And we got Azamat Murzakanov minus 205 making his UFC debut. Jared Vanderaa plus 175. Murzakanov going up to heavyweight on short notice. Vanderaa coming into the fight on short notice. So, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, so Murzakanov, it's actually a nice, mostly easy Russian name to say. He, that contender series fight was pretty impressive to me. He showed a lot of quickness there, very accurate, both right hand and left overhand. I think, obviously the elephant in the room is how much of an elephant Vanderaa is in comparison to Murzakanov. You have a guy who Dana White himself, after he signed him, or in that interview portion of the Contender Series fight, was suggesting a move down to middleweight, and then you have now him taking on a full-fledged heavyweight in Vanderaa. But Vanderaa, the issue with him is I think people are giving a lot of stock to the fight that he had with Tafa, where he was able, he got that gash, but he was able to stay mostly pretty active against Tafa and tire him out. But Tafa is a 4-3 heavyweight. His only claim to fame is I don't even know what his claim to fame is. Like, why is he in the UFC? He's like like
He looks like Mark Hunt.
the poorest man's version of Mark Hunt. So, and Vanderaa has like 4 times the amount of fights as he does. So it was actually very funny that he was plus 180 or whatever he was there in that fight. But here against Murzakanov, I think the main issue is Murzakanov has shown that he did slow down a few times in some of these heavyweight fights that he did have previously, and that he didn't get some guys out of there very quickly. But I think early on he should be able to mix in his wrestling if needed. But the thing is, Vanderaa has no defensive striking at all. He's going to be there to be hit. And Murzakanov, I don't think will be very scared off by any of the power that Vanderaa throws back at him. You saw in that Romanov fight, he did stay in there, and I give him credit. He was tough in there, but some of just defensive grappling that he had, like, a few times Romanov just literally ran him over, and it wasn't, all that difficult for him to do that at certain points. But Vanderaa did do the fuck it, I'm gonna get up, the Derek Lewis defense on a number of occasions. But I do think that Murzakanov should be able to find a path for his left hand, and hopefully put Vanderaa down. And if that does not work, I do think that he should be able to find some wrestling. He trains with these K Dojo guys who have Mateus Denise, ADCC world champion, training down there with him. I know that for a fact because I used to train a little bit with Mateus. So I think they're training pretty hard over there. I think Murzakanov is used to heavyweights and big guys, and I do not think that Vanderaa is used to the speed that Murzakanov is going to bring. So I pick him. I'll pick him. I did put a little bit bet on him when this dipped all the way down to close to -170. And the over here potentially a good spot if you do think that Vanderaa could survive because you know he has taken bigger shots from bigger guys, so maybe he is able to muck this fight up. But I do think Murzakanov is going to win this one.
Yeah, over 1.5 here, -138. I think that's pretty good. I'm a little more skeptical of Murzakanov than you are. I think that he did look okay on the Contender Series, knocking that guy out, but that guy was a pretty low-level opponent. It just seems like Murzakanov is, he's a pretty crafty southpaw boxer. He's got power in both hands, but I'm not seeing a lot of volume from him. He kind of looks for that one-punch power, and a lot of times at heavyweight, you're going to face these blockhead, durable guys that are going to be able to eat those shots and not go down with that one punch knockout. So I think that that could be a problem for him here. Vanderaa is extremely tough. The guy has been finished a few times, but it's taken an absolute onslaught of ground and pound for this guy to get TKO'd, and he doesn't even go out clean. He just eats like 100 ground and pound strikes to the head before getting mercifully stopped. So I think that Vanderaa is going to be able to hang in there and eat some of these big bombs. And it's going to be interesting to see how Murzakanov looks past the 5 minute mark, considering that he doesn't have much experience late in fights, only one decision win. That was against Guida-Santos, who was a kickboxer. Murzakanov just had a pretty easy fight there, taking him down a few times. But I thought Murtzakanov's wrestling, his grappling looked a bit underwhelming there. I mean, he got swept at one point from bottom when he was on top. He got swept by Guido Incente, the kickboxer, and ended up on bottom. So I'm a little skeptical of Murtzakanov's wrestling ability. I definitely don't think it's going to be as good as Romanov's. So I think this fight's going to get real interesting past the 5 minute mark. It is possible that Murzakanov just bombs away on Vanderaa and maybe knocks him out standing here. Maybe Vanderaa not in good shape. Ozzy did a little research on Vanderea's Instagram. He did mention that he took like 5 weeks off of training after his last fight. So he fought in early October, and then he admitted in mid-November that he hasn't really been doing much for the past month or something. So you got to question what kind of shape the guy's going to be in. He is kind of a big, obese heavyweight, so he might just be in terrible shape. But if he has that typical cardio that he does, like he showed in the Tafa fight, I think he could make this fight close in rounds 2 and 3. But you might as well just wait and live bet him. I think that Murzakanov is probably going to win round 1, and you're going to be able to get a better price on Vanderaa live. So just wait and live bet this one. There's a good chance Murzakanov knocks him out in round 1, but I'm skeptical of Murzakanov for the future. That's going to bring us to the next fight, which takes place in the lightweight division. We have Claudio Puelles taking on Chris Gruetzemacher. This fight is a near pick'em. We got Gruetzemacher -115, Puelles -105. I'm a bit surprised by this line. I mean, Puelles is a guy who he does train out of Sanford MMA now. That is definitely the best thing about him. But this guy is a lay and pray artist all day. I mean, he gets one takedown. He doesn't do a whole lot in top position. He doesn't land strikes. If you look at his statistics, he barely has landed any strikes in his UFC fights. He just gets a takedown, lays on top of you, and he's fought some really bad opponents like Mariano, like Jordan Levitt, who had never seen a single leg in his life before that fight, apparently. And he just had two very easy wins back to back. Two guys who laid on their backs the entire fight and were just terrible. But Gruetzemacher's a guy who can get off his back. He can be taken down. We saw that in the Garcia fight, but he bounced back up to his feet after all those takedowns, and he's tough. He knows how to pressure. He knows how to put up volume, and I have no doubt about it that Chris Gruetzemacher is the meaner, tougher fighter who's gonna want to be landing the harder strikes. Puelles just doesn't seem to land hard strikes. He doesn't put much power behind his strikes. And I think Gruetzemacher's going to get in his face on the feet. He's going to be landing punches. He's going to be putting Puelles on the back foot. And as long as Gruetzemacher can deal with these takedowns, can stand up from that top position, I think that he should be good to outstrike Puelles and possibly even break him and finish him in these later rounds. So I'm surprised where this line's at near pick'em. I don't think Puelles is that good of a grappler. And I certainly don't think that he's going to, I think he's going to need 10 minutes of top time to beat Chris Gruetzemacher, because the guy doesn't land strikes. He doesn't really go for submissions. He's going to have to lay on top of Gruetzemacher for the majority of the fight to win a decision. And Gruetzemacher just doesn't really lose that way. So I think the value's on Gruetzemacher here. I'm interested to see your perspective on this one, Ozzy.
Listen, I don't give a shit about where Chris Gruetzemacher's training. I don't care who's training with him, what interior is in the, like, what equipment he has in his garage. Does not matter. Okay, these guys play different sports. Okay, Claudio Puelles fighting Jordan Levitt, and he like doesn't want to strike with him. He's getting calf kicked by him. Got dropped by a body shot by Martin Bravo. I know that was years ago, but there was a 2-year gap between the Mariano fight and the Jordan Levitt fight. And I mean, Jordan Levitt, I don't like. I'm trying to remember the fight again, but I mean, Levitt. I don't know who won the first round. It was a close round, but Levitt was doing stuff, and then he
Love it,
just.
did, yeah.
He just, gassed. He's very physically weak, and I think that's what prevailed. The conditioning of Claudio Puelles is what prevailed there. But I mean, I don't care about any of that stuff because the fight that Gruetzemacher is going to bring is completely different and foreign to Claudio Puelles. I mean, Puelles has some decent grappling. But the thing, like he'll shoot some takedowns that are okay, but like the positioning overall, I don't think is that sound. It's okay, but it's like shooting in on diving in on single legs with the head outside. It's looking for reverses if you do try to take him down yourself. And then this guy got stood up from like north south on Jordan Levitt. Like Jordan Levitt's not doing anything from on bottom. So he's just nowhere near savage enough for me to not bet Chris Gruetzemacher here. Gruetzemacher undefeated in decisions. So you're telling me that this guy is on a level that he's gonna have to submit Chris Gruetzemacher. I don't look at stats, but I had other than the knee bar that he pulled out of his ass against what's his name?
Silva.
Doesn't matter his name. I've never seen him attempt a real submission. He took the back of Jordan Levitt and immediately lost it. I just don't see him solidifying positions where he's going to be able to do stuff to Chris Gruetzemacher that's not going to, one, tire him out, or two, allow for an escape from Gruetzemacher. You saw in that fight against Rafa Garcia, Chris Gruetzemacher will bang that body up, and he will come forward and he will be aggressive. So the fight that he's going to bring, Claudio Puelles is going to be diving for ankles, diving for single legs, doing all that stuff, and he's going to be met with resistance. And his wrestling attack in both those recent fights has not met any resistance. This guy only has 11 total fights. A number of them are just like not even going out of the first round. He's like finishing with a few of these guys with like head kicks. Like if you look at his overall.
Oh, you unplugged your microphone by accident. You got so excited talking about Chris Gruetzemacher.
Unplug my mic for a second. My bad. So I mean, I love Chris Gruetzemacher here. This fight has been trending towards flipping to favor him at dog money, which I would be all over. But I had to take a little bit of this -105. I just don't understand how. I mean, the path to victory for Claudio Puelles is takedowns and like holding him down. So you think half the time he's gonna have the cardio and the gas to outlast Chris Gruetzemacher over the course of the fight? I mean, at some point, even if Claudio Puelles, let's say, has success early, Chris Gruetzemacher is going to come on to him and test him, whether it be beginning of the second round, the start of it, whether it be him getting out of a takedown, because he's not going to stop. People are looking at him in his garage and thinking he has bad cardio. Okay, well, what's his name? Rafa Garcia trains with Whitman. He trains at altitude. He does all this stuff. Who was the guy, pushing the fight in those late second and third rounds? It's Chris Gruetzemacher. So his conditioning is always
That garage cardio is different. I'm telling you.
That garage cardio is different, man. All you need is look at Jocko Willink, bro. That guy trains in his. All he does
All
is
right,
train.
all right. That's where I'll draw the line.
All he you just hating on him because he was on the Joe Rogan podcast. But the all he does is train in his motherfucking garage, and that guy's in shape. So why can't Chris Gruetzemacher be in shape?
Exactly.
Just a bunch of
Bulletproof
haters.
logic.
Just a bunch of haters, hating on my guy's setup in his garage in North Carolina, and they're dick riding these Sanford guys. Henry Hooft isn't even gonna go out to Vegas he doesn't even know who Claudio Puelles is. Has no idea who that guy is. So I mean, if you want to bet him, God bless. Let's see what happens. But this guy, he only wins by decision and against bums, against Anderson Silva's boy and Jordan Levitt, and
Couldn't submit that guy
couldn't
when
even submit that guy.
Lando-Venata submitted him in less
Couldn't
than a round.
couldn't even submit that guy, and now he's gonna beat Puelles-Gruetzemacher, who like 6 years ago was on the Ultimate Fighter, was an undefeated fighter, has only lost to Chaska. Like not Chaska is not borderline top 15, but the other guys are. Nah, man, give me Puelles-Gruetzemacher. Give me him for multiple units, and let's see Claudio. I mean, look, listen, I'm Latino, so I love these Peruvian. My aunts,
All
my
right,
uncle's
all right.
Peruvian. I love to see him succeed. But it's not gonna happen here. I think this is too much for my guy to chew on. So
This motherfucker talking about his aunts, his Jocko Willock, all the good reasoning is coming into this one. We got Gritzmacher Bigley. We're moving on though. Another
I love him.
hilarious fight. Another hilarious fight. This one's going right back to you, Ozzy. So keep the
Okay.
gun loaded. We got
Peace.
Menifield versus Knight,
Ooh,
205-pound
Menifield.
division.
No, I love
Um,
me a Menifield fight.
yep. Very one of Ozzy's favorite fighters. BetOnline has Menifield minus 143, William Knight plus 123. Hilarious matchup here.
You love to see it. We were robbed of this fight earlier this year. I forgot. I think someone got COVID. Knight got COVID. That's what happened. But hopefully it doesn't happen this time. Interesting fight in the fact that I mean, like you never know what kind of fight is gonna bust out in a William Knight fight. Like, is he gonna be getting his ass whooped and like mount a comeback? Is the guy gonna be trying to take him down and fail like Kimura and Brundage did, and then him turn it on? You just never know what's gonna happen. Menifield definitely has, I would say, like more skill than Knight does, and he discovered how to calf kick in his last fight, which was very, very welcome sight and very unexpected. But and the line's been coming in his direction. It's like some tout money, some touts, on the William Knight side. I personally, I just cannot get involved. I know people are very, very intrigued in this fight. They're thinking, I think that Menifield's gonna just be able to stay on the outside, use his power striking, and put the more accurate punches on William Knight. But the thing is that William Knight, even when he is losing, I think that he just baits and goads you into like a coin flip kind of fight where either he could like you're throwing punches at him and he's like blocking them and doing squirming around and then throws power back. And I think that the biggest issue in Alonzo Menifield is that he's just not a very high IQ fighter. This is going to be in a smaller cage as well, where the Ed Herman one, I think he had a little bit more room to navigate and move around, especially after he crippled Herman with those calf kicks. So I think that this fight's gonna get sloppy, and William Knight is gonna be able to start eking his way back into it. I don't have a solid read on it, to be honest. I'm gonna totally take it off. I'm not looking at the prop side of things, and none of that. I think people are risking it a little bit, saying over and all these things, just because these guys both definitely have power, and I think they'll be willing to exchange with each other. So we'll see what happens. I think I would have leaned towards Knight early on if I could have got like plus 140, plus 145. But it's gonna be a total pass for me.
Yeah, I think that Menifield, this is a good matchup for him, honestly. I mean, we've been pretty skeptical of the guy throughout his entire career, but I think this fight is where he's, meeting another fighter who is an athletic monster, but also just severely underdeveloped in the skill area. And I think Knight is even, worse at the skill level aspect of MMA. I mean, if you watch the Sharon fight, I mean, Knight is pulling his head back in a straight line. Like he has no concept of ducking under punches or parrying or uh, he just pulling his head back like an amateur. So the same could be said about Menifield. I mean, OSP looked like a world class striker on Menifield there. I know that was one of Ozzy's big bets recently.
Oh boy.
um but Ozzy's made a lot of money fading money Menifield in his time, and he's not doing it this time. So that shows that this is a pretty good matchup for Menifield. The calf kick I thought was a good sign from him in his last fight. He went the full 15 minutes and looked good the entire time. And Menifield also did hit that takedown on Sharon. And as we know, as we saw in the Da Un Jung fight, William Knight can be taken down very easily. He is terrible off of his back, doesn't really have any idea how to get off that bottom position. So we might even see Menifield hit some takedowns here. So I think Menifield's got a few advantages here, and I think he's going to be my pick to win. I'm not going to be betting it as well, but I do cap him, minus 170 or something. So, hypothetically, there is value, but just not a fight I recommend betting on. That's going to move us to the next fight. We only got 4 fights down. We got to keep chugging through this. We got Mallory Martin taking on Cheyenne Buys. I'm not sure how to pronounce that new last name of hers at this point, so we're just keeping it with Buys. But Cheyenne Buys minus 183 right now. Mallory Martin plus 158. So interesting line. Since Cheyenne's last fight, I believe she had COVID. She's on record saying that she had a tough time dealing with COVID. I mean, she did an interview 2 to 3 weeks ago where she admitted that she's having like a tough time with her cardio and everything like that. And she like basically said, "Oh, I hope to get better by the fight." So that's a concern. And she also got divorced from her husband and moved into a new house. So a lot going on in the life of Cheyenne Buys right now. If you're a big fan of Narrative Nation, you might be interested in the Mallory Martin side of this matchup. What do you think about all that information before you get into your actual analysis?
Only part of it that I care about is the COVID side of things. That's the only part I think that matters at all. Mallory Martin, I don't like her. I don't like anything about her. She got meme armbarred by what's her name,
Viana.
Pollyanna in her last fight. Cheyenne, I think Cheyenne is highly skilled. I think if she gets her head on right, she's been training and fighting for a while. Like she had her first amateur fight 8 years ago almost. And Mallory Martin, although she trains with a solid camp over there, she has no her knees are totally fucked. I'll tell you that. Like she's had her
Knee braces in all the fights.
all the fights. She's had her meniscus, just cut up. There's barely anything left. I don't know if it's both of them or one of them, but definitely one of them has like no meniscus in it. And you see that she's kind of stiff on the feet. She leaves her chin up. Her defense of her hands is not very good. And her best attribute is that she goes for takedowns and her top game. But her overall jiu-jitsu game, I think, is somewhat weak. Especially if you can like make her defend. If you can put the grappling exchanges on your script. You saw Verna Jandridrova as soon as she took her, like she was playing with her when she was on the offensive. But then when she's able to put Hannah Cyphers down and be aggressive, she can find finishes and good positions. But overall, I do think that Cheyenne is the better fighter overall. I think she has much cleaner striking. I think she is more diverse in that striking. She's got both punches and pretty good kicks, as you saw by that great timing in her last fight on that head kick that she landed. But some fighter saying that their lungs are not good and their breathing is affected is just something that you cannot just back. It has to be a total stay away. If you want to bet Mallory Martin, I guess, but I think I just bet her by decision, because even in those compromising positions that Cheyenne got put in against Ruiz, I just don't see a path for Martin to be submitting Cheyenne. Cheyenne, for all her faults, is just incredibly determined, and I do think she would be able to escape positions if she does get taken down. And I think that athletically she is good enough to be able to defend some of these like single legs and double legs. So maybe look at Mallory by decision, which is like plus 240, I think. But another fight gonna be a stay away and a pass for me, based on those things by those statements by Cheyenne.
See, I think you're on the mark with most of it, but even you, I think, have a little bit too much respect for Cheyenne Buys. I feel like these people in the market got these short memories, because we cannot forget what happened in that Ruiz fight. I mean, that was one of the worst things I've ever seen in MMA. Getting head and arm thrown like that over and over and over and getting held in that position. Ozzy, when you're in that position, that I don't even know what you call it, the scarfold position. You learn how to defend. You learn how to
Yeah,
defend
I'm
that.
sympathetic. Like I said, the first tournament that I got submitted on in, I got caught in that same position and I got
When you were a
finished.
white belt, right?
Yeah, but it's a tough position. I mean, once you let someone get up like towards your shoulders there, It's like when someone mounts you and they get their knees all the way up under your armpits. It's a tough position to get out of, and Ruiz
I
is
don't agree. I think anybody
no,
your own I don't think anybody your
no.
own size,
You're probably right.
you have to be able to get out of that. I mean, like, if you're Alexei Olenek and you have a 30-pound weight advantage on some guys at heavyweight, sure. I mean, but when you're in that position versus somebody your own size, I mean, I think it's pretty basic that how to escape that. It looked like she had no idea how to escape that, and that's like a white belt jujitsu escape position. So based on that, I mean, that also the head and arm throw, one of the most basic, predictable takedowns. I mean, Ruiz did that on tape over and over again. The fact that Buys was able to lose that fight, getting taken down by that same move, showed that she
You
lacks preparation for one, because she didn't study her opponent. She didn't realize that it was her go-to move, and then it just shows that she has a lack of idea of how to escape bad positions on the ground. Now, Buys did redeem herself a little bit in her last fight, but that was against what's her face, your girl.
EDP,
Yeah,
EDP,
what's her
EDP,
actual last name?
Deparia, DePaula.
DePaula, yeah, who's a striker, right? In that fight, Bias took her down, head kicked her, the fight was over.
That was hot. That was cool.
We have not that was cool. Well, we haven't seen Bias show any resemblance of improvement in her takedown defense, her bottom position, any of that. And Martin, does know how to grapple. She knows how to get the
Barely.
fight in her realm of the fight. You saw her try to play striker versus Hannah Cyphers. Hannah, the farm girl Cyphers, showed
Almost
her that
died. Almost died.
you're not cut out for this life. She dropped her hard, and then Martin gathered her thoughts. Her corner told her what to do to get the fight to the floor, and she was able to do it and translate it into a finish. So I think that Martin honestly does have a good chance at getting this fight to the floor and just top gaming Buys. Simple as that. I think that she could possibly high roll herself to a finish if she just goes crazy with ground and pound. But I think that a top position clinic from Martin is on the spectrum here. So Buys minus 183. You should check yourself into a gambling addiction clinic if you're betting that shit. So I think that the side on this one is Martin, honestly. Um, we're having some fun with this podcast. We still got fucking 10 fights left. We're 33% of the way done. And we got another fun fight in the next one. We got welterweight division. Jake Matthews as the favorite at the price of minus 172. Jeremiah Wells plus 147. You can start this one off, Ozzy. I think these guys are just cut from two different cloths. And I
Lord.
think that we're going to see that shown in this
Lord,
fight.
I mean, look, I've never seen a record like Jake Matthews. Like, I mean, it doesn't even make sense in the realm of you thinking like a UFC overall. But I just think I guess they were trying to stroke this guy because he is from Australia and all. But I mean, it's littered with like a bunch of bums and underwhelming performances. And I mean, the thing with Jake Matthews is he's just like a generic fighter in my eyes. Like he's not very good in any capacity. He doesn't have that much heart. He gives up. So like that arm triangle he gave I repeat to you, he gave Sean Brady when he was like getting that wrist taken and kind of like going to his back. Like when you're going to your back there that the next thing the guy's gonna do is arm triangle you. And he tapped and let go of Sean Brady's leg even before it was really cinched up. So, I mean, I've never believed in Jake Matthews. UFC, unfortunately, did not give me many opportunities to fade him. But every time they did, I will tell you, all of his losses, I was against them in every single one of them. And I'm going to be against him here again because Jeremiah Wells, overall he's obviously a blitz attacker. Overall he doesn't have a ton of those range striking tools, but the good thing about that is that it's quite difficult to counter a guy like Jeremiah Wells who's so quick, commits to punching to those strikes so hard. And you saw Warley Alves was like shocked in every after every exchange or before or after every exchange with the aggression and the timing and the quickness that Wells is coming into him with. So, Wells does have some takedown ability. He has gone 5 rounds before as well. So I'm not very concerned about his cardio and conditioning. And I just think he's going to be able to blitz Jake Matthews, probably take him down at some point. I do think it will be competitive early on. You know, Jake Matthews will come in and probably look to get some takedowns, look to land that left hook of his overall. But the guy does not have great volume to me. I think his defense on the feet leaves a lot to be desired. You saw Sean Brady land that check left hook on him, and I think that overall he's not going to be able to implement his kind of like this guy. Just he's like a sloth. Like he just wants to slow the fight down and grind that clock down and make his dad happy in the corner and win a decision. And I don't think that Jeremiah Wells is with that game plan, if you know what I mean. So I think the strikes that Jeremiah Wells, if this fight goes late, the strikes that Jeremiah Wells puts on Jake Matthews is gonna make the difference. It's gonna score more points. It's gonna make a tangible effect. Like the judges are gonna give credit to it. And I think that he's not gonna be staying on the ground like Emil Meek did and Diego Sanchez and whatever that Swedish guy, the really hairy Swedish guy, did. Like it's not gonna happen. So at that plus 165 number, I was in on Jeremiah Wells. I'll take that plus 150 number as well. I was not sure where the line was going to go. But I like Jeremiah Wells here. I think that this is a very, 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 very good spot for him because I think he could finish easily. I think he could win on scorecards. And I don't think that even a submission on Jake Matthews late would be a big surprise. So give me the Philly guy, give me the Renzo Gracie PA guy, and let's keep riding that train till the cows come home.
Yeah, I had done, some tape. I saw Wells fight live one time back in like 2018 against Norwood. That was a 5 round fight. He won. And I was a little bit skeptical of the guy. I think his skill set is a bit limited, but I mean, the dude is just so athletic. Extremely muscular and strong. You saw that in those exchanges with Alves, and in some of his fights, he really leverages that athleticism and that aggression well, and he finds finishes. Sometimes his 5 round fight in CFFC most recently, he did almost nothing in that fight. He tried to be, a technical striker, and it just wasn't his style, and he lost that fight via a close decision. But when you see him going crazy against Alves, swinging these big punches, I mean, that's how he's effective. And I have pretty little doubt that Matthews has is the more skilled fighter. I do think that in the gym, if you had to build a fighter on UFC or whatever, he would have a higher skill level. But it, like Ozzy said, the guy just lacks that killer instinct. He doesn't really know what he's doing with himself at certain times. I mean, I don't think he's got a consistent game that he goes to. I mean, he has knocked some guys down on the feet, but he's not really a consistent high volume striker. He has taken some guys down and submitted them, but he's not an extremely reliable wrestler. He's not extremely good on top either. And we saw Wells when he was on top of Alves for that short period of time. I mean, you see that the guy knows what he's doing on top. He's heavy. He knows how to throw ground and pound. He knows how to get in an advantageous positions without doing too much. He's not going to be going for back takes and going for all different types of submissions. He knows how to be conservative with that top position and keep it. So I just think that I'm picking Wells here based on him being, the more naturally aggressive fighter. I think he's got an athleticism advantage here, the power advantage, and I think he could land some hands on Matthews, and Matthews might just want to, shell up and get out of there. So I'm not sure how Wells is going to get it done, but I'm picking him to do so. I'll be on him at plus money as well. That's going to take us to the next fight in the welterweight division, where we have short notice Darian Weeks filling in for Matt Brown here, taking on Brian Barberena. Barberena minus 123 on Bet Online, with Weeks coming back plus 103. So uh, you know, this line is close. You got Barberena, who's probably like a 20-fight UFC veteran, been in the UFC forever, has been declining lately, no doubt about it. His past 3 fights have been pretty worrisome performances. But, he's facing a UFC newcomer with 5 UFC fights on 1 week's notice. So taping Darren Weeks, I had some pretty high expectations for the guy. If he's, almost even money against an experienced vet like Barb, I would expect him to be really good. And I was a little underwhelmed. I think that the guy is a decent fighter. He's not glaringly awful at anything, but his strength of schedule is not good. He's fought a lot of low level opponents. Barberena is going to be the best opponent that he's fought by a wide, wide margin. And Weeks has some decent striking. I saw him outstrike the guy in LFA. He looked really good in that fight, but that was a 3-4 older guy who was not that good at fighting. And I just don't think we really have an idea of how good Weeks is, because the guys he's been beating and looking good against have been extremely low level. And I just don't think it's going to translate that well to Brian Barberena. Barb did get rocked a few times versus Jason Witt. He did get taken down versus Jason Witt, but I saw two, good things after that. He recovered fast. He was able to get off of his ass after those knockdowns and get back, clear his head a little bit. And when he gets taken down, he can still work his way back up to the feet pretty well. So I haven't seen too much impressive jiu-jitsu wise from Weeks. He did just get his blue belt in jiu-jitsu recently on his Instagram. So that he's not a jiu-jitsu based type of fighter. He's a wrestler. So I don't think he's going to have the top pressure to hold Barberena down. He might get some takedowns, but I don't think he's going to hold Barberena down for more than 30 seconds. And then on the feet, Barberena is like almost entirely boxing offense. He doesn't really throw any strikes besides punches to the head. Weeks does mix it up a little bit better, but just the wealth of experience for Barberena, I think, should win him these striking exchanges as the fight goes on. I mean, he does still have some pop behind his punches. He is, a crafty southpaw boxer. So I think as the fight goes on, we're going to see Barberena show that veteran skill, and he's going to win rounds 2 and 3 here, probably might even win round 1. So I'll be picking Barberena by decision. And at this line, I think he is worth a bet. I cap him, 60% minimum. I just don't think a 1 week short notice fighter with 5 pro fights who's not really great at anything deserves, near even money. What are you thinking here, Ozzy?
I love when the UFC puts fights together like this, because it's like it's like a battle, like new age kind of versus like old school. Like Barberena has been in the UFC since 2014 when he fought Jake Ellenberg's younger brother, I think. So 7 years in UFC, very, very long time. He's been in there with former title challengers, current top 15 guys. But he's lost to all those guys. Like the fights he's won: Joe Proctor, Jake Ellenberger, other Ellenberger, Anthony
Marley's a good
Ivy.
win. Marley's a good win. He gave
Or
Vicente a good
yeah,
win.
Worley back in the day. But my point is that I told you guys, for those that were listening back, I think our second podcast ever, Barberena, he's a negator. He does not, like, he'll take all the off, he'll get his ass whooped. You look at all his fights, the Colby Covington fight, the Worley Alves fight, even the Sage Norcutt fight, the Luque fight, all these fights, even the Witt fight, he'll get fucked up, and then he'll make the fight close, because he has spurts of offense. He is very tough. He does put out effective offense. He does know how to stay in a fight. He does know when he needs to rally to put out offense. Like, those are all good intangibles that Brian Barberena has. But the fact of the matter is, in all the fights that he has, the other guy is somewhat in the fight. Yet, like, me personally, I try to not give to as much, like, I do value experience, but I try not to put that much stock always in, okay, you fought a guy that's way better than you, or that is now in the title picture, or is now ranked and all this stuff, and you lost to him. Because at the end of the day, the results, the final results, I feel, matter more than the ins and outs of what happened in the context of the fight. I think a lot of people will value, oh, well, Randy Brown, that fight, it was back and forth. Yeah, but once Randy Brown started tuning him up to the body and finish him, like, it's a cage fight at the end of the day, and it's a 15-minute fight between two guys. Like, both guys typically have some, semblance of offense within it. That being all
Wait,
said, that's all philosophical. But that's all
one point.
philosophical. But go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Let me bring one thing up. So, like, in the context of Luque versus Barberena, that's what you're talking about. Luque did get his hand raised at the end of that one, but, like, in terms of their careers, like, I think that fight was more of a win for Barberena than it was for Luque. Like, Luque won the fight at the end of the day, but the amount that Luque struggled with Barberena was, like, kind of embarrassing. And, like,
Luka just
even
gets hit by everyone. Like, he just, he
but he
gets
could have
put
been
in
5 seconds away
he
from
gets put in
losing that fight.
he gets put in precarious positions all the time. Even like Tyron Woodley fight, he gets rocked. The Michael Chiesa fight, he's almost choked. The Nico Price fight, they're just swinging and banging. The Mike Perry fight, they're swinging and banging. The Derek Krantz fight, he's got his back taken and he's almost rear naked choke. This is this is what I'm saying in the context of even like a person like Vicente Luque, who I do think is very good. Like the fact of the matter is, this guy gets hit, and I'm not going to give that much credit to Barberena because he was able to. I mean, Barberena is incredibly tough. Like I said, he's not a negator. He's a guy. He'll take all the offense that you give him, and then he will land stuff on you because he is skilled in the aspect of the fight where he knows how to land his offense. Now, let me just get really quickly into this fight. But the thing is, Darian Weeks, five fights in UFC, or five
Yep.
MMA fights overall, has not looked. I mean, he looked okay to me. I think the fact is that my biggest worry is that Barberena, the pace that he brings forth, is he's like a guy. He's not Nate Diaz, but he's like the kind of guy where he'll present you so many offensive opportunities that he could tire you out from like just letting, like the Homer Simpson, like some people say, that like he lets you hit him, he puts himself in bad position sometimes, but then he gets out and then you can't finish him and then you're tired of doing it. And a guy like Darian Weeks, who's only had 5 MMA fights, is sometimes you get an adrenaline dump. You're like teeing off on a guy, and because you're in on such short notice, you probably don't have tip top cardio. And he probably could be a lightweight, but I actually do like more guys like him that are fighting at their natural weight class. He is a 93 kid. His birthday was last week, so hopefully he was not drinking and partying that much, because Barberena is a freaking tough fight for a guy who's only he has like 5 times the amount of UFC experience. I did take those early lines on Weeks because I knew that a lot of people feel that Barberena is shot to bits, and I do think that Darian Weeks early on is going to have some success. I think that his boxing and his hands are much cleaner. I think he's going to be able to land straight shots on Barberena, but he has not shown devastating KO power. So I think that Barberena is going to play out the same way as a lot of them do. I think Barberena is going to be getting teed off on. He's probably going to try and take Weeks down at some point and then start grinding on him with ground and pound shots, touching up his body and doing all that. But I mean, I think that you're kind of crazy to be laying any kind of juice on Barberena. It's just not a very good investable opportunity, in my opinion. I think it's better to look at this in a live bet scenario, because Weeks is going to come out hot. I think even if he does know that Barberena is the kind of fighter he is, it's just hard to contain yourself and be composed in there against a guy like that, and the guy that's coming from that camp as well. I don't know who Darian Weeks trains with, but I do think he's a solid prospect. I'm interested.
Nobody good.
Nobody good. So I'm interested in seeing what he does there, in his UFC career, because I do think he's a solid prospect. He had a good amount of amateur fights.
Yeah,
I believe he
huge
had
amateur background.
almost 20 amateur fights, a lot of fights versus guys that are good as well.
Yeah.
But I just don't like Barberena. I don't like the circumstances around his career, the surgeries he's having, the damage he's taken. And I do so, I have some Weeks money line now.
What
I'll probably
price?
buy off of it. It was like plus 145, plus 150. There was like a plus 146, I think, on FanDuel that I got some number like that. And I'm gonna be observing the fight. I'll probably buy off of it a little bit of it. But I do think that Weeks here, it's a close fight because I do think that he's going to be able to get out ahead of Barberena. Not a confident, side for me, but I just feel that Barberena is just going to come out there and just be way too hittable for this guy, and then we'll see what kind of fight breaks out from there. Way too
All right,
long on that. Way too long.
that's gonna move us along to flyweight fight. We got Menifield-Knight as the minus 270 favorite, taking on Zhumagulov plus 230 on this one. I'll kick this one back to you. I don't know. What are we going with, Cop or Cape?
Go with Cop. I like Cop. So it's the fight where Cop. I really liked him in his, initially. I think I was all over him in his first 2 UFC fights. Very, very skilled striker. Has some Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu game. Actually has some takedowns as well. I've been low more on Zhumagulov overall, but I do think this is a fight that could be rather interesting because Zhumagulov, he has really, really good experience. He has shown the ability to claw back fights. Like that fight against Paiva I thought it was a pretty good fight. They were both going back and forth a lot. He did show a little bit of, I think, some holes in his game against Albazi, which I was all over Albazi in that spot. And he shows some grappling deficiencies there. But the thing with Kape is he's not buttoned up that much in the grappling realms, where he is gonna continue to like out chest move you to get to positions like the back and stuff like that. Cop is more the kind of guy like he'll take you down to like show off that he could take you down and then let you right back up. Like that's just the kind of guy that Cop is. Whereas a guy like Albazi is like, all right, like I got this position, I work for it, let me maintain it, and then work from there. So Zhumagulov has shown the ability to be competitive with literally everyone that he's fought. So I think I've seen some sharp guys that I know on that early line of like minus 200, 205, 210 on Cop, and definitely understand it. But laying that big juice overall is just trying to rely too much on a finish, because if this fight is going late, Cop has some lapses. Overall, he looked great in that second round against Nicolau, but that's like the only time that he really looked very impressive to me overall. He's got all the skills, but he does not have that connective tissue, that connective, that in between stuff, that filler. In his fights to put it all together. And Zumagulov, he's just like a nasty dude. He throws unorthodox punches. He comes forward, and even like when you're circling out, you think you're safe, and like he's just chasing you down, trying to throw the overhand left, trying to throw leg kicks, trying to get to the clinch. So I think that there's some value opening up on his side here. I'm not very confident in Cop at all. I was more confident in him earlier on, but when I did a little refresh and I saw how competitive Zumagulov always is, it just really dissuaded me from backing Cop. This guy's 16-6 for a reason, and it's just a deficiency he has. Like he's not able to put together 15 quality minutes, and him finishing Zumagulov is a very foreign. Like I can't really get there overall. So I'll consider, if this keeps going up, I'll consider taking a little bit of Zumagulov, and at that plus like at less than 30%. Like we need to get like a plus 230, more thereabouts for me to be on him.
I think anything over plus 170 is worth the bet on Zhumagulov. I mean, I think this is an easy, just value bet. Don't think about it too much situation. Cop at minus 270, I think is pretty absurd. I mean, he's more of a favorite than he was against O'Day. And that fight, not much happened. Like, not much happened. They were tentative. And then Cop lands a big flying knee, and the fight's over. But Cop has not really looked minus 200 in any of his UFC fights, maybe not even any of his MMA fights. I mean, even his Ryzen fights that he won, those were close fights. Zumagulov, been around the way, fought extremely tough competition in Russia. He might have left his best years behind him. I mean, he has not really looked his career best since getting into the UFC. But the guy is well rounded. I mean, he's not glaringly bad at anything. He can hit offensive takedowns. That could be a path to victory for him here. He's not like some incredible wrestler with great top position, but we know that Cape's takedown defense was, bad at one point. It does seem to be improving. But I just see this is going to be a low volume competitive striking match. I think Zumagulov's a crafty counter puncher. We saw that in the Paiva fight. He made that one really close. And, Paiva's a long, rangy, higher output guy than Cop, and Zumagulov was able to make that fight really close. So plus 230, don't even think about it too much. Just half unit, maybe 3/4 of a unit bet. And just see how it goes. I think the Zumagulov's got a good chance to pull this one off by decision. That's going to move us along. We are more than halfway done this fight card now. Moving on to middleweight division, we have Dushko Todorovic as the, where's this line at? He's like minus 140 or something like that. I can't find the line right now. There he is, minus 152. Maki Pitolo plus 132. A lot of action coming in on Pitolo here. I mean, this line was way wider at one point, opened up in the minus 200 range, and people are just steadily coming in on Maki Pitolo. I don't really see it. I think I've been pretty skeptical of Dushko so far, but I think this is a fight that is pretty winnable for him. Pitolo is a decent boxer. He's a decent wrestler, but kind of what Ozzy was just talking about with Cop is this guy just can't put together a good 15 minutes. He's always making some bonehead mistake. He's always, if he's winning a fight, he, will eventually stop and lose the fight, like in the Marquez fight. He was doing well against Darren Stewart before diving into a guillotine. He gassed out versus Callum Potter. I mean, this guy has a lot of issues. He's somewhat skilled, but he's got a lot of issues, and I just don't think he's reliable to show up for that full 15 minutes. He's also not really a natural middleweight. This guy is more of a welterweight who doesn't really like cutting weight, and he's moving up to 185. And Dushko has actually faced some really stiff competition with the guy who knocked him out in round one, who I'm blanking on, Soriano.
Uno.
Yeah, and, of course, uh, RoboCop in his last
Barack.
fight, yeah. So, those 2 guys would do mean things to Pitolo, so I think that Dusko is kinda getting an easier matchup here, and I'm picking him to win by decision. I feel like this is a good over spot. I don't really, say that too often, but, Dushko, I'm not too impressed with his finishing ability, and even though Dushko has gotten dropped a few times, I think his durability against D-Rod looked fine, so, what's the over here? I don't even see it
It
on
was like
Bet.
minus. It was. I've seen it. There's a line that I liked. It was like minus 185, minus 190. It just got bet a little bit. You can only
Wait,
find it
no,
like
no
directly on
way.
like
For
Bet
-1,
Online.
what is it, for 1.5?
Yeah.
That's weird, wow, I'm
It, I,
surprised.
don't- it doesn't show up on Best Fight Odds, but like you have to go like Bet Online or one of your local, but whatever your bookie you use. But yeah, it's like minus 190, minus 185.
What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, so I mean, I mean, Dusko is a very funny fighter. Like, obviously those last two guys, like you said, two absolute like race horses. In Puna and Greg. You saw in that Greg fight when they're like locking up and clinching, like how big Gregory Rodriguez looks in comparison to Dusko. And Dusko, for his credit, man, like he stood in there, like he didn't go away. He got hit with some clean shots. He was able to roll with them a little bit. So I think his chin is UFC certified. Even though he presents it out there quite often. I just think Maki Pitolo, the thing with him is you don't know how he's gonna come out. You saw a fight against Impa where he was just striking and he got outstruck. He just got jabbed up a lot, and then he changed it up. He was like, "All right, I'm only grappling," and then he had a lot of success with that against Marquez, and then ended up getting caught in a choke at the end of the day. I do think that in the transitions, Dusko is better than Marquez is. Like I think he is able to go on offense more. Marquez is like more of like an all or nothing kind of fighter. Like he doesn't defend some of those takedowns and clinch positions and takedowns and stuff like that as well. I do think that Dusko will have more success there. So I think that the takedowns will become more difficult for Maki in this aspect. So I think we'll see a little bit more range striking here, which Maki does have some skills. He goes to the body well. He'll throw some good hooks in there. But I do think this is an okay spot for Dusko. I don't love this money line spot. Like I mean, I think I need it less than 60% just because Maki does have power in his hands. Dusko does the lean with it, rock with it defense all the time. He's just like leaning back and leaning away from punches. And even if Maki can't connect with his head, he'll be able to throw to the body pretty easily. So I actually like the over spot personally. I do think that Dusko will be able to find that chin of Maki's. Maki does not have great defense to me. I mean, the guy's 13-8 for a reason overall. And I think that Dusko actually has some offensive grappling of his own, right? And you haven't really seen that much from Maki in that aspect, except for against Callum Potter, who Callum Potter, if I remember correctly, kind of grapple fucked Maki, even with Maki's like weight problems. And yeah, he was at 170, he depleted all that. Still kind of embarrassing to lose to Callum Potter.
Very.
So I like Dusko here. I do know people that like Maki here. There's no way I would want to invest in Maki in this spot. But that over, even though it's juiced a bit, I just don't think either of these guys is really getting each other out of there. Even though Maki can just like, I mean, getting guillotined by Darren Stewart is just like the most hilarious, like a British. I mean, look, if a guy like Darren Stewart, like a British guy like that guillotine me, I think I'd retire. But God bless him, he's still in here, and I think he's fighting for his job. So I told you, who was the guy? Rafa Garcia. Yeah, that was a concern I had last time. Betting against a dude like Rafa Garcia who's fighting for his job, it's always a little concerning. And the same thing here with Maki. So career best performance could be coming, but I do think that Dusko probably the side here. And I would lean to the over if I did make the play. I'm undetermined if I will though.
Yeah, I'm done putting my money on Pitolo after that last quit job against Marquez. Never again. All right, we're on the main card. We're in the final stretch here, Ozzy. First fight, main card, welterweight division. We have Alex Morono as a pretty decent sized favorite, minus 230. Mickey Gall coming back plus 195. You could start this one off.
Ooh, okay, yes. So, very interesting fight for me here. You've got a guy in Alex Morono who has a lot of UFC experience, has fought a pretty good strength of schedule, has banked a lot of rounds as well. Has often gone to decision. He's got almost 30 overall MMA fights, and Mickey Gall, we know him. We all know him pretty well. I was in attendance when he did call out the GOAT CM Punk, and then cash in on that two times, cash or three times. I give him that because he cashed in on that Sage Northcutt fight. Amazing 3 fight run there. Mike Jackson, CM Punk, Sage Northcutt, pretty epic by the guy. And I think he's been alternating wins and losses here. He's been finding his way in a Shark Tank that is a welterweight division, but the guy's got some good hardware, good like physicality overall to him. He's a killer on the mat. If you saw that finish that he had against Jordan Williams, that was just textbook Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. The hand fighting there to get that rear naked choke. A lot of UFC fighters would go a long way if they observed that hand fighting and how to finish and lock in a rear naked choke like Gall did. But this is an interesting fight because Alex Morono, to me, he's this is like best case scenario for him overall as a fighter. Like when I'm looking at him on the feet, he bites on a ton of feints. He's always looking to launch that right hand. If you look at that as a water fight, he's always like ready to throw that right hand, and he's swinging and missing a lot. I'm not a stat guy, but if you look at the stats, his striking accuracy has to be pretty poor. And I think he's there to be hit pretty often. I know that Mickey Gall has been working on his striking a lot recently, and I think that he is a far superior grappler. If this does hit the bat, which I would highly recommend if I had the ear of Mickey Gall, because Morono goes down with a gust of wind for the most part overall. So I think that Mickey here should and he's got to be careful because for even though that Morono is not the best striker, he throws those right hands really really hard with very a lot of commitment, and it leaves him open for the takedown, which is why I would like to see Gall, go for his takedown. But Donald Cerrone was on the end of those punches. He felt what that feels like. But overall, I feel that this is a spot that Mickey Gall, now this is climbing back up to plus 190. I thought this was going to trend down towards the plus 150 range. At plus 190, plus 195, I love Gall here in this spot as like just a plus EV, like a bet that just the odds are definitely wrong because I think, like I said, I think he has a big advantage on the ground. I think on the feet he will be competitive. He should be able to know how to navigate into the boxing range. And overall, I think the biggest question mark will probably be the cardio of Mickey Gall overall. So, but I think he is aware of all those faults. I think he's a pretty smart guy. And I'm going to be backing him here at this plus price. I think that he should be able to avoid some of those counters that Morono throws back and hopefully get that grappling going. And, find a way to either get to some dominant positions where he's able to settle down Morono because Morono doesn't really have that many get-ups, or maybe outpoint him on the feet with, because as a water fight, looking back at it, it was actually kind of close because Morono, like I said, he swings and misses a lot.
That wasn't close.
It was kinda close, but I know we were, on the opposite. It was kinda close.
That's true. Yeah,
Um,
I do remember picking the Morono side
yeah,
there.
but yeah, that's how I feel about the fight. I think that Gall, even for his lack of UFC experience, I think the style matchup, here is, pretty good for him.
Yeah, I agree with most of that. And I mean, if the fight stays standing, I mean, maybe Morono can justify minus 200. The guy does have good volume. He is probably the better overall striker, but Gall is just steadily improving everywhere. We saw him drop some hands on Jordan Williams and get a knockdown there. So I think the Gall has kind of gone from, overrated to underrated in the past few fights. Like as you said, after that initial run of his where he was finishing people thought that he was a little bit better than he was. He got humbled in a few losses, and I think he's making a better account of himself as each fight goes on. Like the Perry fight, I thought was a slight improvement, probably his all time best versus Jordan Williams. So plus 200, I just think is off. Like Ozzy was saying, there's no need to overthink it. It's a value bet. I think that this line should be maybe like more minus 170, plus 150. And if Gall comes in with the right game plan to wrestle heavy, to shoot a lot of takedowns, I mean, he could look like the favorite. He could look minus 200 over Morono here if he comes in with the right wrestling heavy game plan. So I like Gall here as well. You know, I hate to give Ozzy more and more credit, but that what he said about Gall getting the rear naked choke. So many guys get the back and they kind of just hold it there. I mean, you actually saw him, lifting up the chin, ripping those arms under, and he took that rear naked choke from Williams, and it just shows how high level he is with the submission grappling. So Gall's a really good grappler, and if he gets on top here, he could look the favorite. So I like Gall for probably the same half unit, 3/4 of a unit bet here. Um, that's going to move us along to next fight on the main card. Getting back to the Tapology here, we got my boy Brendan Allen taking on Chris Curtis. Middleweight division here, short notice matchup for Chris Curtis. Betting line is Brendan Allen minus 350, Chris Curtis plus 285. Pretty much the same line that Phil Hawes was in his last fight. And I know Chris Curtis won that fight. I know Ozzy's probably gonna brag about like winning some money on Curtis, but let me tell you this right now. Chris Curtis looked every bit of plus 285 in that fight. Before Phil Hawes' chin just completely died out on him. I just think that Curtis isn't really meant for this 185-pound weight class. I think that his frame is much more suited for 170, and he just gives up a lot of speed at this weight class. Brendan Allen has been looking better and better every fight. His striking has been looking rapidly improving. Puna Soriano, a lot of people thought that he was going to be bombing away on Allen, and he was going to be the one knocking Allen out. And people were thinking that Allen was going to have to grapple to win. Allen said, "Nah, I'll keep this standing, and I'll strike Puna the entire time." So Brendan Allen just making huge improvements right now. We know that he's a good grappler. We saw him submit guys, finish guys on the floor, Tom Breese, Kevin Holland. And I just think that Brendan Allen should be able to do whatever he wants. If he wants to outstrike Curtis, he'll do so. If he wants to take him down and finish him, he'll do so. So I think Allen will justify this minus 350 and win any way he wants.
Yeah, I love this fight. Brendan Allen has fought in his last few fights, like all of them have been versus Southpaws, which I think carrying that, apart from Sean Strickland, which I think carrying that into this fight will be of benefit for him. But it's a big difference here from fighting a guy, Kyle Dawkins, nine fights, Carl Roberson, 12 fights, Punalani Soriano, 8 fights, Chris Curtis, 35 fights. Even though a lot of those fights took place at welterweight, outside of the UFC, all those things, people definitely discounted him a lot in that Phil Hawes fight, and he's just a cerebral fighter. He knows what the best aspects of his game are, and he knows that what the other guy is bringing in. He knows that he knew that Phil Hawes early on is pretty strong, is going to be coming out with volume and all that, but he knew that Phil Hawes has a weak chin and was able to find that chin with his left hand. So that will always be live in a Chris Curtis fight because he has tons of power in that left hand. And I do think that, Brendan Allen a little overrated overall. I think he is solid everywhere. I was on him against Puna, at that plus number. But I think here at that minus 350 number, I think the Chalk boys will for sure put him in the parlays. That's going to be, maybe a top one, like a top two teamer for Allen here. But the thing is, Puna just doesn't know how to counter anything. Like Allen was just, sniping at him with right body kicks and staying away from his left hand. Curtis knows how to line up the left hand, is able to use his right hand and attack from that side. So I think this will be a somewhat close fight. The reach is very, very close. I think that Curtis has a pretty good gas overall. And I think that in the grappling realm, if Allen is looking to get these takedowns, a lot of times, like you saw in that Kevin Holland fight, he's a little bit loose overall. Like I think a guy like Chris Curtis, who is smaller, is actually poses more difficulty for some of these grapplers like Allen, who are kind of, and I know because I feel like I was like a grappler similar to Allen. I always felt these like small, compact, short guys who have explosive hips, could turn out of stuff, were more difficult to handle in certain instances. And I do feel that Allen's gas sometimes in like he does not have some of this hustle. I feel in some of these grappling exchanges. I thought that Kyle Dawkins should have won that fight if he got like some better positions overall. And like I said in that Kevin Holland fight, they were scrambling around a lot. So I'm definitely gonna take a shot at Chris Curtis here. I think just he's just able to find the strikes that favor him way more. I don't think that Allen, if this does stay on the feet, will justify that price at all. And I think that his takedowns would have to come from more clinch scenarios than he's not really a single double leg blast double kind of guy. Obviously he got that heel hook over Carl Roberson when Roberson himself went for a submission there. So I think this will definitely be a closer fight. And I'm gonna go back to the strategy I used in the last Chris Curtis fight, which was bet Chris Curtis and then hedge a little bit with like goes the distance, or the over has been getting juiced in here. It was 1.5. It was minus like 180, 185. Now it's up over minus 200, which I'm not as enthused about. But I really I don't think that Allen's catching a knockout on Chris Curtis. He's got a really good chin, and I think that he's able to like shell up and move his head around a pretty good amount. And I don't think that Brendan Allen has like that much of a killer instinct overall. I know he has a lot of finishes, but like I thought that he could have put it on Puna a lot more, and I think he was a little scared by the power. And I don't think he's submitting Chris Curtis. So I actually favor this fight to go the distance. But Chris Curtis put that up in flames last time, so I gotta have something on him to not lose if he knocks Brendan Allen out. But Brendan Allen's got a solid chin. But yeah, so I like Curtis here, close to plus 300, 25%. Like you're giving the guy almost no chance to win the fight by decision, and I just don't see that because Allen himself, I think he gets over his skis a little bit sometimes and he could put himself in a little bit of bad scenarios where Curtis could land significant offense.
I think you're giving Curtis way too much credit still.
Curtis, you hate Curtis. You hate Curtis.
He's no good. He's no good.
Curtis.
And talking about his defensive head movement when Phil Halls was looking like friggin'
Really?
Sugar Ray
He wasn't
Robinson.
landing anything very clean. I mean, in Chris Curtis's career, in the last 5 years, he's had like 10 fights. He's only lost to Ray Cooper and I can't even finish the
Karamov,
last
yeah,
Magomed Karamov.
he got
That's it.
severely outgrappled by both those welterweights.
That's it.
Got
That's it.
taken down, mounted
Now
by
he's not
Ray
cutting any
Cooper.
more weight. He's not cutting
Got
any more weight. He's
taken
better at
down,
185. He
taken
shouldn't
down
go to
back to.
170.
That's ridiculous. That's
He should not
ridiculous.
go to 170.
He's the most
You
slow
you
hittable.
think that Brendan Allen's a better wrestler than Magomed Karamov or whatever the his
He's a
name?
better
No.
fighter. He's a better
Oh,
fighter.
dude, no, he's not.
Karamov sucks, bro. That bull's
You're a
that bull's
hater.
trash.
You're a UFC stan.
No, I mean I like Ray Cooper, right? I like Ray Cooper, and he put a beating on that man. Yeah. So Allen knockout plus 900 on FanDuel. I think that's worth a stab. That's yeah, minus
I don't even
350.
think Curtis has ever been knocked out. Brendan Allen's the guy.
Sure, he is. Brendan Allen can do whatever he wants to this guy. He'll
He could
justify
even
my.
knock out Puna, Puna was just he's freaking he's looking for a third lung in that fight, and he couldn't even knock him out.
Maybe 30-27 them. Maybe 30-26, honestly.
Hey, I made like $3,000 on that fight. You don't gotta tell me twice.
Yeah, so we're in agreement. Brendan Allen justifies minus 350. Moving
No
on.
way.
Next fight, lightweight division. We have Leonardo Santos, the 42-year-old at minus 190, taking on Clay Guida plus 165, who's 40. I think it's probably the oldest lightweight fight ever. Both these guys over 40 years old. I started the last one, so you can kick this one off.
Don't give a shit about this fight. Clay Guida's super grimy, super grindy. This fight could look like the Bogoman fight, Bogatov, whatever. Or it could look a little bit like the CV Ray fight where Clay Guida's trying to come in and they're playing like hopscotch or double dutch a little bit. Both of them kind of like hopping around, and then Santos like puts the right hand on his chin. But Santos just not active enough. Like I've got a bad read on Clay Guida fights. Like I was on him against Michael Johnson, but overall, like the things that he does in there, not the most high IQ. he gets himself submitted in grappling fights and in MMA fights like way too often. I'm not gonna blame anybody for liking Santos either, because obviously Santos has not good cardio, has great jujitsu, and has some power on the feet overall. So I think he should be able to like pick at Clay Guida and then come in with the power strikes when he wants to. But I can't lay the juice on him. Probably can't get behind Clay Guida. You'll probably have an opportunity to get on Clay Guida live. So I'm not really interested in betting him pre-fight, because he's just gonna do what Clay Guida does. So yeah, I don't got that much on that fight, man.
Yeah, pretty boring fight. I mean, there's a good chance this fight just takes place like entirely against the cage. Like Guida's going to take him down, Santos defends, and they end up stalled against the cage for the entire time. I mean, that's what happened in Santos versus Dawson, Santos versus Bogatov, Guida versus Bobby Green. I mean, Guida shoots takedowns. If he doesn't get them, he'll just push you against the cage and hold you there forever. And Santos can defend takedowns all day. He just doesn't do good at getting off the cage, at breaking the clinch, at having the footwork to avoid getting pushed against the cage in the first place. So I mean, Santos is the better striker, but Guida is going to be coming forward, throwing volume, and I just see an activity difference between these guys. Guida is going to be shooting takedowns and coming forward and throwing strikes, and Santos just has a more conservative fighting style, and I just don't trust Santos at minus 190. He's so late into his career. He has only justified, minus 190, one time. I mean, even the Bogota fight, I think he was the same price, minus 190. And I just felt that fight was so much closer than it had to be. I felt Santos had so much more skill, but Bogota was pushing him against the fence and just stalling out there for such long periods of time. I mean, I really think that Guida could win a decision here by just cage pushing and being the more active, aggressive guy and stealing these close rounds. And a bet I like for this fight, one of Ozzy's favorite bets, fight ends by split decision at plus 380. I think that's pretty good. I do think this one's going to the judges, and I think it's just going to be a coin flip, grindy, cage pushy decision. So don't bet on this one. Maybe Guida by decision if you want to make a bet, but that's going to take us along to the next fight, which is in the light heavyweight division. We have Jimmy Crute as the minus 162 favorite, Jamal Hill plus 142. I think it's a pretty easy fight to read, in my opinion. I mean, Jamal Hill was taken down several times by Darko Stosic. He made that idiotic move of putting his hand on the mat versus Paul Craig. I just think that this guy isn't really meant for wrestling, doesn't have the best grappling mind. I mean, he's going to have the striking advantage on Crute. I mean, he's a long southpaw, pumps out a lot of volume, and he's going to outstrike Crute if the fight stays in the feet for more than 60 seconds at a time. But Crute just shoots a high amount of takedowns. He's super aggressive. I just think the Crute's going to take him for a ride in round one, take him down, possibly even submit him in the first round. And I just think the Crute's going to find a submission here in the first or second round. And I just don't trust the takedown defense of Hill. If you like Hill, I would probably take him by knockout or maybe look to live bet him, because I'm almost positive that he's getting taken down in round one here. So I'll take Crute by sub. It was plus 380 earlier in the week on FanDuel. Not sure if that line is still out there. I doubt it. Down to plus 300. Still think that's value. So what do you
Yeah, so I mean, I was looking at Crute, like he almost got dropped like a few times by Anthony Smith's jab. Made no effort to move his head off of it. First leg kick he ate, his leg was done. Trains with Jake Matthews, don't love that. But the thing with, and I was leaning Jamal Hill because I do think he has some, he's got good straight shots. He mixes it up pretty well. He moves on angles decently. Seeing him this week, he was saying he had like a foot injury during camp. He said like camp was tough and all that, and that definitely cooled my jets on that. Yeah, so Crute, he's got decent takedowns. It's not great takedowns. Like the only times he's really shot for takedowns were versus Mikal, which he had to do like 8 mat returns and take him and keep taking him down. And then after his leg was done, he took down Anthony Smith a few times. But obviously Anthony Smith has no takedown defense. So I think this is gonna be a close fight, like a closer fight than a lot of people expect. I do expect I think it's gonna be the mullet parlay this week. It's gonna be Brendan Allen, Jimmy Crute, back to back right there. That probably gives you like evenish odds. So I think that's going to be what a lot of guys are on. Obviously,
And it's gonna win. It might
obviously
not be the smartest bet, but it's gonna win.
obviously I will not be one of those guys. No judgment being passed. I mean a little bit, but no judgment being passed. But yeah, I think that'll be a main parlay. But I do think this is a closer fight than people are giving it credit for, because overall, I've never seen him really take people down outside of the first round. When has that happened?
Maybe Craig.
Crickets. Paul Craig, come on. Paul Craig he pulled guard against Jamal Hill. That's all he wants to do. So, you don't really know what Jimmy Crute looks like in later fights, if they're dog fights where they're, striking and exchanging. So if Jamal Hill could get his fight, I think that, basically how I feel about it is I'll look to live bet Jamal Hill, because if Jimmy Crute is on his script, he should be wrestling early on. And if he's not wrestling early on, I don't depend on him to get takedowns later in the fight. So I think later the fight goes, it's better for Jamal Hill. And yeah, that's how I'm gonna play it. I was thinking about betting Jamal Hill. I know some people, that sent that line down. I thought that we were gonna trend towards plus 200, but these Neanderthals, they want to take plus 160 and send it down and tip it to a few people and all that. So it'll let the parlay boys get in on that, and we'll see what happens. But I think this line should climb up. I don't blame anybody for taking Crute early, because I do think he'll have success early on. And yeah, I'm gonna be on the sidelines until I get a live line on Jamal Hill potentially.
All right, so we are 13 fights down. We've had some good fights, some interesting matchups, but we're getting into some real fights now. Co-main event time. We got Rafael Fiziev as the minus 130 favorite. We got Brad Riddell coming back plus 110. Go ahead and give me your thoughts on this lightweight matchup. Incredible matchup. Doesn't get better than this. We're big fans of both these
I
guys, but
love it.
a bigger fan of one of them.
I love it. I love it. Okay, I love it. So, I mean, this is a great fight between two guys that have shown like exactly who they are, and potentially how the fight could play out in two different ways, right? Rafael Fiziev has shown in early on, he starts off very well and fades a little bit late. Brad Riddell, complete opposite, maybe has a little bit of a slower first round and then just grows as the fight goes on. I think I've bet on Brad Riddell in almost all of his fights, was all over him in his last one, and I think he showed there the attributes that prove that he is a borderline top 10 guy. I'm not going to say, stone cold top 10 guy, but borderline top 10 guy. And I just don't believe that Fiziev is even a top 15 fighter. That could be a hot take for some people, but I just don't think this guy's a top 15 fighter. Overall, if you look at that Bobby Green fight, a lot of the best offense that Rafael Fiziev had was in that second round, was where he, uncorked a few punches. And the thing is, Bobby Green, he's that kind of guy. He's the kind of guy. He's not great. Like, he'll let you throw punches at him. He wants to dodge and roll with him and then counter you. That's the kind of guy he is. That's just what he wants to do. And Fiziev, at numerous points in the boxing, especially, he's like, what the hell? I cannot hit this guy very cleanly. But I just don't value the striking of Fiziev as much as a lot of these other guys do. He throws naked kicks quite often. He did that against Bobby Green very often. But the thing is, Bobby Green is easy to kick him. Because he doesn't return kicks. He doesn't counter the kicks very well. And most of those strikes that he was throwing were like free kicks, where like Fiziev was like, I know this guy's not going to counter me. We talk about kickboxing backgrounds. Brad Riddell literally has double the amount of documented kickboxing fights that Rafael Fiziev has. He is much better on a counter in the boxing. He has much cleaner hands. He has a much better chin. This guy's chin is unreal, and he's got real power in his hands. Alex White was taking punches from Fiziev. Like, Fiziev lost a third round to Alex White, and I just think that overall, when these guys come out and they're exchanging in the pocket, Riddell is just much better in a war. He's much better in the pocket, both blocking punches and countering off of them, taking angles, countering kicks. and is able to land his offense in a more meaningful way. Although Fiziev, he does the flashy stuff, he does the lean backs on the kicks, he does some counters that are pretty good. That and he'll shrink together some shots. But if you see in that Bobby Green fight, a lot of those strikes that he landed did not actually do that much to Bobby Green. They were like a lot for show. Now, obviously, the Moicano fight, he did very well in that to find the chin of Moicano, but Moicano was just putting himself out there too much for a guy that has no chin. The Mark Diakase fight in the third round, it got a little bit closer there. But you saw, like, overall, as Rafael Fiziev was countering, throwing these Muay Thai, body kicks at Diakase, it was discouraging to Mark Diakase. Is not going to be discouraging to Brad Riddell. Brad Riddell is a tested, proven guy. He knows Rafael Fiziev in and out. He knows his strategy. He knows the weaknesses that he has, and he is just
Train together a lot.
trained together a lot. He's just a much more cerebral fighter. He knows how to attack you, how to find the shots that are gonna make a difference in a fight later on. I am very confident in the Brad Riddell side. One of my just like a fight where I think that it's just a lot of hype on the side of Rafael Fiziev. People loving, oh man, he had a very exciting fight last time. Oh, he's like such a flashy striker. Oh, he's like training at Sanford MMA. He's doing all this stuff. Cleaner striker. I think he's better in literally every facet of MMA. Cleaner striker, better wrestler, better jiu-jitsu, better cardio, better chin, all those things. So
Maybe
I
not chin,
think
but
chin, yes.
yeah.
But I think that the bad thing is sometimes he starts a little slow. So I love Brad Riddell in this spot. I think that he will be able to land on Fiziev. I do think that he will be able to stay safe on the comeback, and I think that he's going to win this fight.
All right, so yeah, I agree with most of what Ozzy said. Hopefully, I won't spend too long on it because I don't want to just echo what he said. But I do think that Fiziev is the faster fighter. He might be the better athlete. He might have the better kicks by themselves. But when you're talking about you know adapting as the fight goes, it's a 15-minute fight. You got to be able to not only win the first round, you have to be able to make reads and adapt as the fight goes on. And Fiziev is a fast starter who comes out strong, who typically wins the first round, maybe the first 2 rounds. But then by round 3, he kind of has done the same thing over and over again. He hasn't made too many attritional reads. His cardio slows down a little bit, and then he takes round 3 off at sometimes. But Riddell is the opposite. Ozzy did kind of get into this earlier. He takes round 1 slow, he makes some reads, and then by rounds 2 and 3, he's really tuning it up on you. And in addition to Fiziev typically slowing down in his previous fights, he's now facing Brad Riddell, who is, a terrific body puncher. I mean, this guy goes with a straight right hand to the body, as a really underrated punch in MMA. I mean, he changes levels so well. He was dipping underneath Drew Dober's hooks and just ripping him to the body with body shots there. And that's going to be, taking out the gas tank of Fiziev here. And unlike Bobby Green, who kind of just eats the kicks on the arms and keeps coming forward. Brad Riddell is going to be a little bit better prepared to deal with those kicks, to maybe check some of those kicks, to be able to fire back and not let Fiziev get off so many, free open body kicks. But even in that fight where Fiziev was landing those free body kicks, he still made that fight extremely close. Rewatching that fight, I'm telling you, that fight comes down to one big moment in round 2 where Fiziev cracks Green with like a few punch combination. The crowd goes crazy, but it really didn't hurt Green as much as the crowd made it out to be. And that round 2, extremely close. Without that one moment, Bobby Green could have won that. And we all know Bobby Green won round 3. So, with
Scumbag ass Muay Thai judge. You Muay Thai guys are fucking corrupt, I tell you.
they wrote that guy, the referee gave round 3 to Bobby Green, and instead of admitting he was wrong, he wrote a 3-paragraph essay on like why he thought he won, and we're like, dude, it's not really defensible. It's not really looking to hear arguments of why you scored the fight wrong. But yeah, so one other thing here is that Riddell has hit takedowns in all 4 of his UFC fights. The guy's not a wrestler, but he's, always involved in these high amplitude striking fights, and his opponents shoot takedowns on him. He defends, and sometimes he hits his own takedowns. He hit 5 takedowns on Drew Dober. So if these rounds are close, they're back and forth high activity rounds, and you might be seeing Brad Riddell look to hit a takedown here to secure that late round, excuse me. So I wonder if Frank Hickman will be in his corner. Frank Hickman No, I don't think he probably will be.
Cares, bro. He was in Loma's corner. Look what happened to her.
True, but yeah, but whatever. Why even bringing old shit up? Why you got to do my girl Loma like that? But what else? Whatever. So Riddell for multiple units. That's as simple as it gets. I bet some at plus 105. It seems like he's going back to plus 110. And if you're listening here and you're saying, "Oh man, this Ozzy guy, he's so good at betting. He's so confident in Brad Riddell, putting all the money is on Brad Riddell." I'm advising you, just wait a little bit. Wait till Saturday afternoon or something to see.
I've not bet it yet because I
See?
knew that these guys were gonna push it. I know some guys, even money minus 105, plus 105. I was like, nah, hype machine, UFC machine. We're waiting, so I'm waiting.
Yeah. I mean, I really do think Riddell's chances here are 57% maybe. I mean, Fiziev's going to need an incredible round 1 and 2 of high output striking, and he's going to have to, just put on his career best performance. But this is an amazing matchup. 2 A+ level strikers, elite strikers. This is such a fun fight, and we're both really looking forward to it. And we'll both be on Bradley here. And that's going to take us to the main event. Talk about back-to-back co-main event, main events on a fight night. This is as good as it gets. 2 incredible fights. We have in the bantamweight division, Rob Font, the minus 139 favorite. Jose Aldo, the greatest fighter ever, coming back at plus 119 on the comeback. And, first off, we got to say, I'm sorry, Jose Aldo. Ozzy and I are sorry. We doubted you last fight. We picked Pedro Munoz. You can go back and listen to 10 minutes of us reasoning why. It was all wrong. So we're sorry, Jose Aldo. We shouldn't have doubted you.
I did take plus 116. It closed minus 110. So,
Sure.
but I'm sorry, King of Rio. I apologize. Deepest apologies.
True. And I've gained, that fight. He just looks so fucking good. I mean, that fight proved why this guy is, the greatest fighter ever. Even if you don't believe that necessarily, you got to respect him as top 10, top 5 ever, because he's late into his career at a new weight class and he's fighting, still elite level fighters. Pedro Munoz, my boy Marlon Vera. I mean, and he's beating these guys and he's looking, near in his prime as he's doing so. After all the wars, after all the high level experience, I mean, what Aldo is continuing to do is just incredible. So right off the bat, you got to give your respect to Aldo, and you got to say that he's the underdog here. So Rob Font has been on a tear lately, has been looking, incredible. Last guy to beat Sergio Pettis, who fights tomorrow night, who has been looking incredible of his own right. He had a tough fight against Ricky Simón. His takedown defense looked better there. Grinded out a tough victory. Knocked out Marlon Moraes, and then put a clinic on Cody Garbrandt over 5 rounds. So the guy has been, getting some really high marquee matchups, but I don't think those matchups are too, pertinent to the Aldo fight. I guess maybe the Pettis one would be the closest fight because, Moraes is shot. He tried to wrestle. It failed. He got knocked out instantly. Garbrandt doesn't really know what he's doing with himself. And Ricky Simón, just a completely different matchup than Jose Aldo. So I think this is a lot different fight for Font than he's used to. It might be kind of used to his Munoz fight. And we do know that Munoz did he knock out or finish or submit Font in round 2 or something? I think he guillotined him. But
rocked him and then finished him.
Yeah, but you saw what a heavy calf kicker, a relentless puncher like Munoz could do to Font. That was a few years ago, but you got to think that Aldo is going to be one and doing the same thing. And I'm going to try to just keep this brief. And I just think that Aldo is the better striker. He's the more experienced fighter by far. He hasn't really taken too many steps back, even though he is aging, even though he is at this new weight class. He looks as sharp as ever. And the only real legitimate concern around Aldo is his cardio, because in the 1-5 round fight at 135, he did slow down significantly in rounds 4 and 5. But that's against Peter Yan, the number 1 bantamweight in the world, who is a great attritional fighter. Those first 3 rounds were extremely close. Aldo won round 2, had a close round 3. So I don't think it's too relevant that he slowed down in the Peter Yan fight. I think that you do have some reason to doubt his cardio. It's been a while since Aldo's gone the full 5, right? But also, has Aldo ever lost a 5-round decision? Fuck no, right? He lost a 3-round decision to Volkanovski, but he has never been beaten over 5 rounds. I don't know if he's ever. Maybe the worst he's ever done is 48-47, maybe over Edgar the first time, but he typically is winning 4 or 5 rounds in all the 5-round fights. He is probably one of the best 5-round fighters of all time, and I'm not ready to write him off over, one concerning cardio performance against Peter Yan. I still think that Aldo has what it takes to win 3 out of 5 rounds here. And it's probably going to be rounds 1 and 2, maybe even the first 3 rounds. Font may come back a little bit in the later half of the fight, but I just trust Aldo to be the sharper, smarter fighter. Don't have any, high level striking analysis here. Like, Pedro or Aldo's going to be, slipping the jab and landing the outside leg kick and following up with the left hook to the body. I don't feel the need to get that, detail with it. I just think that I'm trusting Aldo to win 3 out of 5 rounds. I think he's got enough left in the tank. And I think he's going to win a 48-47 decision here. So incredible fight. Big fan of Rob Font. Cash on him as a dog in his last fight, but it's a whole different matchup. Much better striker than Garbrandt and Marias. And I think that Font's just going to be tested in a way that he hasn't been probably since the first Munoz fight. So passing it over to you here. What are you thinking about this high level fight?
Yeah, I hate Rob Font. Some people tell you that Rob Font and Jose Aldo are the same guy. They won't bet. They won't bet on no, they'll tell you Cody Garbrandt and Jose Aldo are the same guy, but they won't bet on Rob Font. No way they'll do that. But I hate Rob Font. I mean, I think he's a complete fraud. Not sure how he's even in this position. If this is a 3-round fight, I think it'd be super easy to back Aldo. My biggest concern is if Aldo and Rob Font are just slinging 1-2s, back and forth. I do think that probably be advantage Rob Font. The thing with that Pedro Munoz fight is I did make fun of how Pedro Munoz's reach never changes, but unfortunately, Aldo was smart enough that he was like, "All right, I'm just gonna stay right outside of the distance of Pedro Munoz where he could punch me, and his only offense will be leg kicks that I'll be able to defend." And then he was able to win the fight in that manner. But with Font, he has a little bit of a reach advantage, or at least better with that jab and the cross, landing it. And I'm not sure him just being able to stand his ground is going to be as viable. That is a little bit concerning for me. But the thing is, I do think that Rob Font, he still has that tall man strange defense where, Aldo could potentially be able to pull back or stay at the edge of maybe that jab and come over the top with the right hand. But I will say, Aldo has not really, if I remember right, not really been a big like lead cross kind of guy where he's like putting you down or committing super hard on the right cross. So I think it's not groundbreaking analysis that I'm gonna give you. He needs to get on that leg, chop that leg early and often. I'd like to see 5 to 6 leg kicks at minimum in the first round to like tender that leg up of Font. But this fight could go in a number of different ways. Rob Font, terrible wrestler. I mean, you saw him going down super easily from Cody. Cody probably tired himself out a little bit doing that. But I will say Rob Font did show some jiu-jitsu there. So I would be curious if these guys do have any kind of, grappling overall. I do think that Rob Font has some better clinch striking than some of the guys that Aldo has fought in the past. And he did go to the clinch a little bit with Marlon Vera. Marlon Vera is good in the clinch, but I don't think he was looking to strike that often there. So I do think that the clinch could potentially be a factor here. I I mean, a lot of my guys that I respect that bet good deals of money are on uh Aldo for, thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. So I'm respecting that, but I'm like double dutching here. I'm not sure if I'm gonna dabble. I'm gonna be feel bad if I do get involved and I mush it because of my main event record. But I mean, I just don't believe in Rob Font overall all that much. But this being a 5-round fight, it's interesting to me. 5-round fight, like a lot of these fights, is now favored to go the distance, minus 135 for it to go to the scorecards. Which is, I mean, if a complete stand up affair with two guys that definitely have power in their hands, very interesting that it's set at that. So I don't know if it's a trap, like what it is, like are they daring you to take the under, like not doesn't go the distance. But I feel that Aldo should, go to the body, should try to tender up that leg. And then Font overall, I just think he gives too much space. Like I don't think he's gonna pressure Aldo all that much. It's a very, very good fight. I hate Rob Font, man. I mean, I think it's because he's from New England. That definitely plays a part in it. I just hate everything New England, Boston, all those things. I'm gonna pick Aldo here. I hope that he gets it done, connects with Rob Font's chin. But I mean, Rob Font is good at finding the chin of his opponents. He is good at finding good shots, and he is good at filling in the in between points in the fight where the other guy put a lot of offense on him and then he comes back. I remember very vividly that Ricky Simone fight where Ricky Simone had some offense and or like takedowns and stuff like that, and Rob Font pops up and he's on you right away. He's like landing shots, throwing punches. Same thing you saw in Marlon Moraes fight. You saw it in the Cody Garbrandt fight. So I
Do
think
you,
that could
do you think
happen
that
here
Aldo's
as
going to
well.
take him down?
I would not be surprised at Aldo trying to take him down at some point, but I think if he does make an effort, it is probably a bad sign. And I don't think that he's going to be able to control Rob Font that much there. So I think if you see that happen, in my opinion, it's probably a sign to live bet Rob Font.
Yeah. I like Font. I like Font. So I think you're giving a little too much shit, but I understand it from a New Yorker, and we'll be both back in Aldo here. So for the parlay, the two teamer, what are we doing here?
You go first.
I got Bradley
Brad
Quake.
Riddell. So obviously I heavily endorse Brad Riddell as well. I'm gonna take okay, give me Chris Gruetzemacher. I mean, Claudio Puelles
I
is a
like it.
fraud. Claudio Puelles is a fraud. So we got Claudio Puelles and Brad Riddell. That should be like a 3-1 payout more or less, which is like that's the range I like on my parlays if it's a two-teamer. So
Yeah, it's plus 293 on Bet Online right
there
now.
you go. Elite
Um,
math. That's public school math right there, guys.
no, I just did it on
Joking.
did it
It's a
on
joke.
Good. All right. So, if you want some more technical analysis on the Jose Aldo fight and the Brad Riddell fight, I recommend my buddy Sriram. Look up, the fight site on YouTube, or look him up on Twitter. He'll give you some better detailed analysis of that fight.
He won't
And
give
one
you a
other,
bet probably, but he'll give you some analysis.
that's true. He might. And last but not least, this week marks the 4-year anniversary of starting the Martian MMA podcast. I started before UFC 218, so been going 4 years strong, every single UFC event since then, over 160 UFC events in a row, over 160 podcasts. And we started from some stupid podcast developing into a betting podcast, and now we got my boy Ozzy on here, and we're doing big numbers. Last week's episode, I think, was the most viewed episode ever. So I just want to give a shout out to everyone who's been listening over the past few years and everyone who's been tuning in the past few weeks to do these great numbers. And just want to thank you all for listening. And we're going to be seeing you all next week before the big UFC 269 pay-per-view. Any closing thoughts, Ozzy?
If you want some Bellator picks, I like Moda, I like Moret, I like the Jesus, the Brazilian one, Montavlo, over in the Kai Kamaka fight, Josh Hill. It's a full card. So we got more too. It's a full card for Bellator. Emmanuel Sanchez. I love the Bellator card. The OG
Okay, you can
over
go. You can DM Ozzy,
all that.
and the price is $99.99 for
All of that.
his
I gave it
full
to you.
write up. There you
I
go.
gave it to you.
All right, there's some closing. What about Kyoji or Pettis? I'll go Pettis.
That's a tough fight for me. I lean over, even though it's very juiced. I do think that Pettis is probably a little bit underrated here, but I mean, I think that Kyoji potentially can mix up some grappling here.
That's a good Gabe answer. I need a pick, gun your head pick.
Under my
Kyoji.
head, I will pick Kyoji.
Nice. All right, we got a lot of good fights this weekend, like 12 or 13 or 12 Bellator fights, 15 UFC fights. Thank you all for listening. It's been a little over an hour and a half, but thank you all for tuning in.
George Arias.
Hope you all win some money this weekend. There you go. There's 9 Bellator bets from Ozzy there in the last 60 seconds. So make sure you rewind and bet them all. We'll see you all next week. All right. Peace out.
Later.